What is going on, everybody? John Impemba here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS show. It is week 14 of the NFL season. Howard, how are we doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty well, John. I'm doing pretty well. I'm excited about this slate here. There's some very interesting stuff going on in the news right now, kind of setting the tone here for a very intriguing, slate and show for us here.
Right.
Buffalo, Kansas City, going to take a lot of our attention, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As we are filming here today, going over to this 11-game main slate for Sunday, we do get some breaking news. Isaiah Pacheco ruled out for Sunday's matchup between the Bills and the Chiefs here. Jerick McKinnon at DraftKings sitting at $4,800. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at $4,200 here. Potentially going to see a nice spike in rostership with that news. And coming with that as well, we get news that Justin Jefferson will be active this week for the Minnesota Vikings coming out of their bye. They're on the road here against the Las Vegas Raiders. So Triple J coming back this week in week 14. No Isaiah Pacheco. Weather is an issue for this week as well. We will certainly be talking about some of these games that may be impacted by some weather in the north and northeast here. We have some players questionable. We don't know the status of someone like Trevor Lawrence when it comes to that high ankle sprain and whether or not he'll be available for the Jacksonville matchup against Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson's dealing with an illness, though apparently all signs are good with him. So a lot to talk about, a lot to go over here, Howard.
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to go over. Should we just go position by position, or do you want to address some of these like tenuous situations right from the jump?
Now, let's just jump into it here. Let the people give the people what they want, right? They want the positional breakdown. We'll oblige and give them the positional breakdown. Quarterback position here, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are your top two price quarterbacks. Feels like it's been a little bit since we've had a slate with this kind of elite tier of quarterback play, given all the buys and the primetime games here. Quarterback coach, I do include Josh Allen in that quarterback in the quarterback article. I did not have Patrick Mahomes. The top two guys I put in the top tier of the quarterback coach this week was Allen and Herbert. What are your thoughts on the top end quarterbacks for the watch list this week?
Well, I mean, listen, I think the top tier quarterback, Josh Allen and Mahomes, to me, are 100% in. They're 100% in, and I would actually, believe it or not, I think I might favor Mahomes, like a naked Mahomes, in this matchup because for GPP tournaments, because I think that a lot of people are going to stray away from him. From cash games, I think you're going to see a lot of Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, pairings in there. So I'm good with either one of them. I don't necessarily know if these are going to be the guys who, I'm fully invested in, especially when I see, $6,800 Justin Fields against Detroit.
Right. I think for me, right. No, for sure. I think for me, what changes my potential, probably changes my opinion about Mahomes now. They've been giving Pacheco, almost 20 carries in the last handful of weeks.
Who?
I don't imagine that they're going.
He's not in this dojo anymore, John.
I know. I'm saying they're not going to, since he's not available anymore, Howard, they're unlikely to be feeding that level of groundwork now against Buffalo here. If it's Jerick McKinnon getting the majority of those Pacheco snaps, that's favorable for Mahomes. So the quarterback coach is going to be updated. I'm going to be putting Patrick Mahomes in that grouping there. Not interested in Lamar. Again, it's not really a matchup problem. It's more so a weather problem. I know he's more of a mobile quarterback, but he hasn't been all that great for the majority of the season anyways in terms of fantasy production. Not my favorite spot for CJ Stroud either. Again, some potential weather problems in New York. Also having to throw against the Jets defense on the road. Not my favorite spot for him. I do go Justin Herbert here. I do think you can throw on Denver. I like Keenan Allen. He could be getting Joshua Palmer back. Quentin Johnson, for as much as we make fun of him, still was put up some decent numbers last week. I think he had like 5 for 70. So, there is the potential for him to score. But you mentioned it, right? Like, how do we evaluate Justin Fields at $6,800 against Detroit? Because he's come back 2 games, one really good game against Detroit in Detroit, then laid an egg kind of against Minnesota. What's your overall evaluation here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that, the game against Minnesota was a little bit weird, but I mean, there was so much that was weird about that game in general. Like, I just didn't I mean, I thought that, whatever. I didn't like that game. The game against Detroit, I think, is a little bit more telling. It was his first game back from the injury. He ran for 100 yards. I mean, I look at his prop right now, and his prop is at, like, I think 61.5 rushing yards for him. And I'm kind of leaning on that over. Like, that's the thing, is that, I wish he had better weapons, more weapons, but at $6,800, to know that you could have a guy who could rush for 100 yards on his own and throw for a touchdown to DJ Moore, possibly even throw a touchdown to, like, say, Cole Kmet, it becomes a little bit more intriguing to me just for this price point alone.
Sure. Yeah, no arguments. The rushing upside, obviously, last year was a league winner for many. But I do wonder, like, how many people go to Purdy and pivot off of Fields here, right? Purdy, the way he has been playing, coming off a 4-touchdown game, he's got 11 touchdowns, or 11 bad math, 11 touchdowns over the last 4 weeks here, 3 games of over.
Did not have a good game against Seattle 2 weeks ago.
He didn't in Seattle on Thanksgiving. He struggled. So now I say struggled like lightly. He did complete 70% of his passes in that game. They scored 31 points. So it's not as if San Francisco struggled in that game. They just scored other ways. We've talked about the improved secondary a bit for Seattle. They have Weatherspoon, and then they have Jamal Adams there. But, home now for Purdy against Seattle feels like a little bit of a different spot. Do you find more people, because Purdy's been popular lately, chasing Purdy the way they've played in the last few weeks here, or playing Fields?
In all honesty, I would rather play Fields than Purdy. I would rather go in the other direction. Purdy doesn't have the rushing upside. And look at that. They scored 31 points. How did they score those points? Was it all Christian McCaffrey, or most of it was Christian McCaffrey, right? A rushing touchdown maybe for Deebo Samuel. I don't remember the exact.
Yeah, I think Deebo had an end-around touchdown, yeah.
So Deebo has an end-around touchdown. McCaffrey's there. You're looking at, it's easier to run on Seattle than it is to throw against them, given Witherspoon and Jamal Adams. I mean, listen, Deebo had himself a really nice game, and I'm a big fan of Deebo in this matchup. But I mean, I think I'd rather go to Fields than to Purdy this week.
Okay. Yeah, again, I don't mind it. It's the weather's gonna be okay in Chicago. It's just gonna be cold. It's not gonna be windy. It's not gonna be rainy or anything like that. So you get Fields against Detroit. We've talked about Detroit. Their road performances generally a bit suffered compared to their home performances. So Fields is fine. I do like Purdy. But then I kind of move my way down. I think Dobbs could have a bounce.
Point of order, sir. Point of order.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert, any thoughts over here? I'll say this. If Joshua Palmer comes back this week, would you consider Justin Herbert?
Yeah, I mentioned him kind of. I said it quickly going to Fields because you were talking about him. I do think Fields is in. He's in the quarterback coach this week. Again, Quentin Johnson actually had a decent game in terms of statistics last week against the Patriots. No, they didn't score any touchdowns. He did have a pretty gross drop, as he's had week to week here. But even if he is, even if Josh Palmer doesn't come back, this is a good matchup for Gerald Everett. Denver's not a great team covering the tight end. Keenan Allen, we know, has been torching teams. So I'm fine running Herbert here at home against Denver. I think that matchup is certainly suitable. $7,500, maybe now with the change in Kansas City, I might find the money to get Mahomes over Herbert. I favor Purdy a little bit more over Fields, but I understand your point from the rushing potential for him there. To me, there's only a handful of guys in the quarterback coach. I didn't love a lot of the matchups, and the weather also had a lot to do with the selection that we have here. So I went down to Dobbs. I went down to Russell Wilson. Dobbs getting Justin Jefferson back, I think, is something I want to see. They apparently pondered a quarterback change during the bye week because he performed poorly against Chicago, but played fairly well against Denver. The rushing upside is there for him. Now you're giving him his number one wide receiver. I'd like to see what Dobbs looks like here against Las Vegas off their bye week with Justin Jefferson. And then the cover of the quarterback coach is Russell Wilson this week. I think that there's some potential here for a ceiling game against the Chargers. We know how bad their defense is overall. A lot of people like Javonte Williams this week, but you're getting decent numbers from Russell Wilson when anyways, 18, 17, and 18 for the last 5 weeks here. I kind of think Russell Wilson against the Chargers at $5,800, you stack him with a cheap Cortland Sutton, and you can kind of build whatever lineup you want around
I do. I love this game. I excuse me. I definitely do, and I love both Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert. I think one of the narratives surrounds this game that I think a lot of people forget is this is Sean Payton and Joe Lombardi going up against the Chargers. Joe Lombardi's got that revenge game narrative, but Kellen Moore's also got the chip on his shoulder that he wants to show that his offense works better than that. And the fact that both defenses kind of play into each other kind of makes it a little bit more intriguing. I love Javonte Williams in this matchup here for pass catching running backs, which we know is a thing that Joe Lombardi loves to do. Why not make Javonte Williams look like Austin Eckler this week and show you why your Austin Eckler looks like shit in Kellen Moore's system? Like, so I think that, so you've got that. And then you've got Moore being like, I'm coming at you here with a power run. He already said, and he made that comment about the possibility of shared carries in that backfield. Right. And I know that it was Staley who said it, but that's also kind of coming from Kellen Moore, where he's like, if we just power run right at these guys, we can get them. It'll open up the passing. And then we don't have to worry about, Patrick Surtain or anything like that, because we're going to have, Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen and Gerald Everett. We're going to be running look downfield constantly. It's just what these offensive coordinators like to do. And the fact that they're now going up against each other, and neither defense is like anything to write home about. I think that there's some sneaky pop in this matchup here. I love the Russell Wilson call. I'm okay on Dobbs because he's going to get Jefferson back, and Vegas isn't like a strong, team. I just, I feel like more people might actually be on Dobbs than Wilson because of the Jefferson appeal.
Sure. Could certainly be the case. Again, getting a guy like an elite receiver feels like it only elevates what could be the ceiling for Dobbs in this spot. I wasn't really in on the Cincinnati Indianapolis matchup. Apparently, the weather is improving in that. It's not going to be the initial forecast earlier this week was that we were going to see wind and rain. The updated forecast there is that it's not going to be any rain and the wind's not going to be there either. So now it's just going to be cold. Do you have any interest in a Minshew or a Browning here in this spot?
I definitely have interest in Minshew. Okay. Overall, I do. I think the Colts win this game. I think everybody is overrating Jake Browning right now. He had a good game. It was high profile because it was Monday Night Football and it was against the Jaguars, who, I don't know, just decided they were going to take a crap on themselves, defensively speaking. And then, listen, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't get hurt, I think the Jags still win that game. So, how many times have we seen these young, inexperienced quarterbacks dazzle us one week and then pee their pants the next week? We've seen it with everybody.
Gardner Minshew, isn't it? Like we've seen that's a Minshew mania, how it got kicked off. Browning's been around for a little bit though. He's been on practice squads. He's been in the league for a little bit. He had a good college and high school pedigree. Obviously, didn't have the performances really to crack a lineup in the NFL until this year. I'm with you though in agreement. I mean, their offensive strategy last week was to throw 3-yard passes to Jamar Chase and let Jamar Chase make plays, and then all of a sudden he made the big play, and Browning had a big game. But my initial evaluation on this one was like, I just want to run the football in this spot with like Zach Moss, like just attack Cincinnati on the ground. We'll just hammer Zach Moss. I don't really care about the passing game because it didn't seem like you were going to be able to throw. But obviously, I think now that changing, there's definitely some interest with with Michael Pittman here, or Alec Pierce potentially, who had that big game last week over Josh Downs. So Minshew at 5,400, certainly something to pay attention to. And then I'll always just consider Baker at 53. They're in a dome. Last week he sucked, and I wrote it up in the playbook. I was like, he's Baker Mayfield. He's an average at best quarterback that has a week. He just has Mike Evans. Some week Mike Evans has 2 touchdowns. When Mike Evans has 2 touchdowns, Baker Mayfield has good days. This could very well be a 2-touchdown game for Mike Evans because he's always capable of doing it. So why not? Tournament dart throw. Baker's always low 5Ks. Mike Evans is always in the 7K range. Once again, going to be an under 10% rostered Mike Evans. So sure, like happy to do it. You know,
I love an under-owned Mike Evans. It's
nobody plays him. I don't
love it
understand
so much. You know, it's so funny. I wrote an article at the start of the season talking about my biggest fades for 2023, and the fourth name on my list is Mike Evans. And I just, you know, once the season ends and I can take my victory lap for the 3 that I was like completely right about, I will then take my mea culpa for saying this about Mike Evans before this season started, because, you know, like, listen, the fact that, I mean, listen, I should have paid more attention to the fact that Baker likes to throw downfield. And when he was with, you know, when he was with Cleveland, he just, and when he was with the Rams, he had success throwing downfield. And yet we were like, well, Dave Canales run first and short passing and whatever. And that's kind of where I got lost in that. And here we go. You know, when it comes down to it, Baker is constantly looking downfield for Mike Evans. Lesson learned, you know.
Yeah, when you have a
750 winning percentage ain't bad.
When you have a 6'5", 250-pound wide receiver that's running 4.5s, you know, you kind of just throw it to him and see what happens, right? And this year, there's a reason he has 15 straight 1,000-yard seasons, right? He's a monster. I'm excited to get the wide receiver. We'll talk about that in a few moments because there's a name that is blowing the field away in rostership this week here, Howard. I have no other quarterback interest here, though. Yeah, are you riding the Flacco train this week? I mean, like,
no. I'm not. I'm not running any other QBs that
he threw 44 times, so I just want to bring him up, right? Like, you know, it's
listen, you know. Dorian Thompson. They claim that Dorian Thompson-Robinson is ready to clear concussion protocol, and Stefanski is not yet named a starting quarterback. Yeah. So
if it's Flacco, I'll probably take a gander, given how bad his price and how bad Jacksonville's pass defense is. Again, this was another team that, Howard, earlier this week we looked at it. Supposed to rain, supposed to be windy, all those things. Not anymore. So,
so what really is the weather? Is it not going to be bad in Ohio, but it's going to be shitty in Baltimore?
Baltimore and New York right now are the 2 wind and rain games. The north has cleared out. So
this is killing me, man. This is killing me.
Got to offer that split. Let's go to running back here.
I did. My friend did. He offered that chop, the midweek chop, and was told no by the pool administrator.
Oh, what? That's
no midweek chops.
You should all just make an agreement behind the administrator's back.
I have no way of my friend has no way of contacting anybody in the pool.
That's unfortunate. Running backs here. Never hurts to ask. Running backs here.
Well, all I can say is no.
All you can say is no. McCaffrey, Kamara, your top 2 guys there. Price-wise, you mentioned CMC against Seattle. Yeah, he did the damage. 19 for 144 and 2 scores. He's $9,200. If you're going to play a cheap quarterback, you can fit him in your lineup fairly easy this week. So
you pay down at quarterback. You take especially for cash games.
Yeah.
You take the pay down at QB, which is totally fine. And then you plug whoever. It's either going to be McKinnon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
Let's just say McKinnon, right? Then you wait to see if Joshua Palmer is active. And if he's active,
3K,
you lock him at 3 min price. And guess what? You got Christian McCaffrey into your lineups, everybody.
It's super easy to do this week if you wanted to go there. Again,
it's
those
really going to be easy.
5,100 a player. So, you know, all the same. We're not going to go. Are we going back to Kyron Williams here? I mean, he's just been a monster.
Not against Baltimore?
I don't know. He did against Cleveland, 21 for 88 and a score.
Yeah, that is true.
So
that is true.
You know,
I'm not as bullish on him this week. I think a lot of people head to visit him this week, but I'm not as bullish on him.
Josh Jacobs, 6,900 off a bye.
Josh Jacobs, 6,900 off of a bye. That does become somewhat intriguing. Minnesota's run defense has actually been a little bit better than I think than we kind of expected. But it's still, I think, if Jacobs is just going to continue to see the volume that he sees, like that could definitely be the way to go. But, do you want to do that, or you want to go to, like Rashad White, who's only $100 cheaper?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, White, the great pass down work, the carry volume has been impressive. 3 games of over 20 carries now in the last 5 is something that it's good to see there. I went more towards this. I went more towards Montgomery here. Against Chicago, 12 for 76, 4 straight games now with a touchdown since returning to their lineup. $6,400. I don't mind going with Montgomery in this spot.
In the second revenge game narrative for him.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all either.
You've been riding Bijan lately. Any interest in running back?
Some, but it is Tampa. It's tougher situation. I think Levante David was just pulled off of the injury report. They're still going to be without Devin White in the middle, which is tougher, but having Levante David in there kind of makes it a little bit more intriguing. And of course, wouldn't this be the way that I've been riding Bijan during his hot streak, that I keep that going? And then Arthur Smith says, "Up yours, Bender."
Right. Exactly. You get all the Algier love there.
I can hear it with every play call.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, again, foreshadowing of what we're going to talk about in a moment here. Zach Moss, great spot against Cincinnati. He was a value chalk play last week and did nothing with it. 7 fantasy points. Had to use him in cash. Didn't necessarily have to use him in GPPs. I had him in just 1 of 3, so certainly probably worked out not playing him in that spot. Volume was nice, and you can run on Cincinnati. Do you go some post hype with Zach Moss?
I'm very bullish on Zach Moss because I think his lousy performance last week is going to help keep ownership down. And listen, I like Moss and Mixon both in that matchup. I really do. I think both teams are going to want to try and establish that run, take the pressure off of their passing game. And then kind of like let things open up from there. Mixon's also been very involved in the passing attack as well. We've seen an uptick in targets and receptions for him. So I like both of these guys in there. And I mean, just right around them right there is James Cook, who, Kansas City run defense, not that great. I don't know what they rank overall. They were like 20th overall against the run. Let me see. Now they're 28th in DVOA against the run. And since they got rid of Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator, look at the touches for James Cook. Those have been absolutely fantastic in the last couple of weeks.
What is it? The reports of my demise have been greatly exaggerated or something like that. Is that the quote?
I don't know. Did he say that?
Not him, but it's just, I think it's like a movie quote or something like that. But anyways, people were talking up Latavius Murray for a bit and down talking James Cook, and then they signed Leonard Fournette, and they're like, oh no, well, the carries have been there, the volume's been there, the touches have been there. I agree with you. If you're game stacking, you want some James Cook on that side, you certainly can get to that. Madison's 55, Ford's 55 as well. Jerome Ford, not great. I think Kareem Hunt out touched him last game, if I remember correctly. I don't know how your feelings are in Cleveland.
I'm not really looking at either of those guys against Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville's run defense got a little wake up call this past week against Joe Mixon.
Sure. And
I think they kind of shore that up a little bit. I'm not really interested there. Singletary, Pierce, I'm just kind of looking at them against the Jets. The Jets don't have a strong run D. There is supposed to be some bad weather. So I'm just kind of looking through it. I know I've got Singletary in the watch list. I don't necessarily know if he or Pierce would make the final playbook, but not going to ignore them. I'm also kind of diving in a little bit more to Chuba Hubbard. The Saints have been given up. The Saints have given up much more rushing yardage over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so
25 or 104 was a very surprising outcome given the
well, you know what it is with Carolina. I mean, listen, you saw Jonathan Mingo take 10 targets last week. Carolina is they're at the point where Chris Tabor, who's now the interim head coach, is under very strict guidelines from upper management that you audition these youngsters right now. We need to see who we've got. Frank Reich's guys. Right. He brought in Miles Sanders. He brought in Adam Thielen. Right. And he said that he could win with those guys, even with the rookie quarterback. So they're all gone. Let's see what we've got with our kids right now. And, Chuba Hubbard is young enough still, as is, Jonathan Mingo, that these guys, I think they're going to see like an uptick in touches here. So I kind of like Hubbard in that aspect.
Yeah, I was just surprised, Tampa Bay, generally, again, considered to have a good run defense with Vita Vea and whatnot in the middle, 25 for 104 and 2 scores. I saw.
Well, they were without Devin White and Levante David last week.
Yep. I saw one of the tournament winners having Chuba Hubbard in his lineup. It's like, how'd you come up with Chuba Hubbard, right?
Well, those injuries to Tampa Bay's, run D is really kind of where it came out.
Yep. And then we have the Kansas City guys. Again, McKinnon's 48, and you have CEH down here at 42. So
who to use?
Yeah, we talked about obviously the way McKinnon won leagues last year. You got to assume he's the one that would get that first look, but they've mixed in both this season. So it's gonna be interesting to see if someone actually takes over the role or if it's more of a split backfield in this week.
I don't know
either. We'll find out. I think both get some shared rostership here this week, though. At the wide receiver,
I think they're definitely getting shared. I mean, it's going to be a matter. I think you're right. I think more people will go on McKinnon just based off of reputation, right? Above everything.
I'm going to go see if we have an update, and I'll let you know if we have an early look at where people are going. For the wide receiver position, do you want me to get to the chalk, or do you want to work our way down? The chalk play is, I think, maybe surprising and a bit controversial.
What's the chalk play?
38% of the field is playing a $4,600 Drake London.
Oh, okay. I mean, listen, Tampa Bay's pass defense has not been strong. Have they squared off? Have the teams played each other before? Yeah, right there at the bottom,
yes,
I think.
He went 6 for 54.
6 for 54. Wow. Very interesting that they're all pivoting to Drake London. I wonder
38%
what we're hearing.
of the field.
What is Tampa Bay's injury situation kind of look like here? What about Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis? Jamel Dean is definitely out. Carlton Davis is in. Winfield's fine. Neal's fine. Devin White out. Vita Vea questionable. Yeah, all right. I mean, it's workable.
Vita Vea is out. I mean, go back to Bijan, right? I mean, I just saw that number and I was like, we're chalking playing a Falcons wide receiver this week. Like that's where we're going, and not even like a min price guys. 46. I thought it was interesting, Howard, last week was that we talked about how Elijah Moore was the chalk play. He had 12 targets from Joe Flacco through 44 times. Now, again, as been the case all season for Elijah Moore, horrible catch to target ratio. Had 4 catches on the 12 targets for 83 yards. But came through. He's just $1,000 more expensive this week. So I don't know if there's any further appeal to you in that situation or not. You have Downs here at 49. Rashee Rice is your number 2 wide receiver in terms of rostership at $5,400. So, some interesting value in this mid-tier range. Top tier guys, though. Diggs 88, Allen 86, Jefferson 85.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love Stephon Diggs going up against the Kansas City Chiefs because I think that a lot of people are going to be afraid of L'Jarius Sneed and the way that their secondary covers. But for whatever reason or another, it's games like this that Stephon Diggs always shows up, right? It's just games like this that he always shows up. So I'm definitely interested in him. I mean, Jefferson becomes an interesting story because do you want to pay up for Jefferson when, I mean, I don't know what his practices have looked like. I don't know what his schedules looked like. And, how much work he's done with Josh Dobbs. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that, whereas Jefferson back in the day, and by that I mean week 1, I'd be fine using him in cash and GPP. I might just kind of build something in a GPP sense and not use him for cash.
So he practiced in full Wednesday, and apparently he's been practicing. He's been logging limited practices since having his window open the last 3 weeks. So
Okay,
he's
that's
definitely been out
encouraging.
there. Now, I don't think they're sending him out unless he's 100%. No risk in re-injuring. I mean, this was a guy 150, 159, 149 to open the year with Cousins obviously throwing on the football. I agree with you. I think there's some definite tournament appeal because Jefferson, otherwise, had he not gotten hurt, probably would have continued to be the number one price wide receiver in fantasy this year. Mike Evans, as I mentioned, getting under 10%. I mean, if everybody's playing Drake London, don't you just come back with Mike Evans in that game stack?
Of course.
Right?
Why even stag it? It's just simple correlation.
Right.
I'll use London and Evans.
6 for 82 and a score in that game against Atlanta earlier this season because, of course he did. He's got 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. We got 4 weeks to go. So, could have a 1,500-yard season on our hand out of Mike Evans. And nobody ever wants to play him. Jamar Chase is 76. Devontae Adams off a bye at 75. Pittman 73. What are our thoughts here?
Well, I mean, let's see. Yes to Amon-Ra. I like him a lot. Yes to Mike Evans. I like him a lot. You got to say yes to Chase, right? I can say no to Nico Collins because I don't like the weather and that he's going to have Sauce Gardner dripping all over him. Mm-hmm. Adams against Minnesota, yes, solid. If you think that Minnesota is going to jump out to that lead, then you're going to see the targets go Adams' way. I'm not, in love with him, but I definitely think that there's good volume there. I think there's better volume probably with Pittman at 73, right? And then it kind of, it's so funny. I was thinking about Olave, but then, when I saw that Jeremy Chin was back and JC Horn was back, I moved off of that. And now that puts me where? It puts me with the San Francisco wide receivers.
Yeah.
Who are basically the exact same price, along with DK Metcalf.
It's crazy that we're back into the Debo rushing touchdown game here. Three of the last 4 weeks, rushing touchdowns. Only went 4 for 116. He did have 2 touchdowns out of those 4 catches. Good volume against Seattle in that game, 7 for 79. Ayuk, because of it, not taking a backseat from the touchdown department, but the volume hasn't been there. So it's like, do you take, how do you figure it out? Like my instinct is always to go Debo because he can score more than one way, where Ayuk is really only catching the football, but Ayuk is also catching generally more consistent touchdowns. So, how are you deciding between the two, Howard?
I mean, it's definitely a tough decision. I would probably say that I would kind of lean again towards Debo because, I mean, I love the yards after the catch. I love how he shakes tackles, right? And you've got the rushing gimmick that comes with it as well, which obviously helps. I love Brandon Ayuk. I think he's phenomenal. I've got him in like a ridiculous high percentage of my season-long leagues. But with what we're seeing from Debo right now here is he's like, really kind of hitting his stride. I think I would take that $100 discount right there.
No arguments. Any Metcalf interest here? San Francisco, he had 9 targets, but only 3 for 32.
There is, but I got to see what's going on with Geno Smith, who's now dealing with a groin injury. It's not, it's not the elbow that was bothering him before. He's dealing with a groin issue.
Right. The Cowboys performance game, I mean, 3 touchdowns, just blew them out of the water.
Oh, that was crazy. And it was kind of fun too, in a weird sort of way.
Yeah. We're in on Sutton. We're in on him every week. He's only 2 for 77 and a score saved us last week. We thought we were going to have a bigger day out of him. He had the targets, didn't do much with them until he caught those big touchdown passes. So happy to go back there against the Chargers, the spot we're looking to target. And then in the mid-tier of this group here, I didn't have much interest. Again, I kind of just found myself rolling down to Rice. I saw the London ownership. I was like, I guess if that's where people are going. Quentin Johnson, if there's no Josh Palmer at 4K, I'd give a look. You have Pierce, 3 catches for 100 yards and a score last week, back-to-back weeks at 6 targets. Wide receivers gets a little gross when you get down into the value and mid tier here, unless something like a Joshua Palmer opens up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a Joshua Palmer is definitely worth opening up. If we're looking down in this range here, yeah, it's not great. It's definitely not great. Because I'm sure some people are going to be like, "Hey, what about Cedric Tillman? He's now seen like 11 targets in his last 2 games." You just had Mingo up there. Yeah. That's the guy who I like the most. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that Jonathan Mingo has now gone from, that dude's played a minimum of 95% of the snaps or 93% of the snaps since like week 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's the target leader on this team over the last 2 games. So, again, audition the youngsters. There's no Marshawn Lattimore. The Saints have a decent secondary, but if you're going to expect Carolina to be playing from behind, they're going to be throwing. I'm sure Mingo will probably find some way into line up with Alontae Taylor. How much does Mingo get into that slot? Let's see. Let's have a look-see, shall we?
I feel like Thielen's probably more of their slot receiver, right?
Oh, I know Thielen's definitely more their slot receiver, but does Mingo, how much? Yeah, Mingo plays 32% of his snaps out of the slot.
Okay.
So that turns me on a little bit more. Yeah, look at that. Big thank you to our friends over at Pro Football Focus. Mingo, 29% on the left, 32% out of the slot, 38% on the right.
I like it.
Me too.
Then we mentioned already, if we do get the return, where's our guy Josh Palmer? Where is he?
$3,000, baby.
All the way down here. Let's see. Limited on Wednesday. Had his activation window open. If he is ruled in, everybody will be playing Joshua Palmer. So
as they should be.
As they should be. I would agree with you. Tight ends, Howard. Laporta, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle. Your top core here.
Kelsey needs a big game. I like him a lot. I don't recall, what did Samuel Laporta do against Chicago the last time they played?
Just 3 for 18.
I didn't think it was anything good. Chicago has a tendency to cover up the tight end fairly well. Eddie Jackson comes in from the secondary, and he sort of kind of works that over there. So I love Hawkinson against Vegas. Even with Justin Jefferson there, even more so with Justin Jefferson there, I think. Because I think Dobbs still wants to lean on Hawk, and if it's going to free up some coverage, I might be interested there.
Okay. Mid-tier tight ends. Coop keeps kind of whispering about Kyle Pitts. $3,700 here.
Listen, I get it. It's, if he's working out of the slot, my question is how much is Antoine Winfield going to get in on it? I just, my days of trusting in Kyle Pitts are gone.
He's your second highest projected roster tight end behind David Njoku.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, Njoku is your number 1 again this week.
What time do we get the next update?
Should be tonight.
Okay. Let's get another update here. We need to straighten some of that shit out.
Okay.
Isaiah Likely at 3,500. Gimme.
Yeah, Likely's number 3. Likely's your third highest roster tight end, but that's got some weather problems in that game.
I want to see what the weather is like. Listen, yesterday, everything was a disaster. Now, all of a sudden today, Cincinnati and Cleveland are okay. So we have a tendency to, I said this to you in the chat, right? I always tell everybody not to overrate the weather. And there I was yesterday, like freaking out about the weather and whether or not I was going to take my friend was going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers in his survivor pool.
Glad we didn't. Glad the friend did not go the Pittsburgh Steelers route.
Right. I said to him, I woke up this morning and I saw, after I figured he went to bed. He's got kids. So, he went to bed super early.
Yeah.
And so I woke him up with a text this morning saying, congratulations on not taking the Steelers.
What are your thoughts on Gerald Everett here? It is a good spot against Denver. Coop doesn't like him because he doesn't run enough routes or whatever. I don't know. And the targets have been there. He's a good tight end for $3,400. He doesn't have to be a world beater, but this is a great matchup. They throw him the football. They're down receivers. Like I kind of like Gerald Everett this week.
If Joshua Palmer is not in, then I definitely like Everett. I think the problem that we have with Everett, he's great between the 20s, right? We've seen him like rip off, good solid chunk yardage plays, and he gets to the sideline when he needs to. But when it comes into the red zone, it's like he's barely looked at.
Right.
And I think that's kind of that's the hang up there. If you're playing in a cash game and you're just looking for a good floor, right? You think that this dude's going to end up with like 4 or 5 catches for 50 odd yards, then maybe, but like I'm just looking at his game log right now. And 3 red zone targets in the last 2 games is actually better than he's been all year long. He had that like little run there in week 6 and 7 against Dallas and Kansas City that he saw 3 red zone targets, and he actually ended up with a touchdown in each of those 2 games. But yeah, it's tough to, like, again, here's the problem is that what everybody has with tight ends, it's like with defenses, you're just chasing the touchdown.
Yeah.
Agreed. And that's the question. Do we go in that realm? Yeah, here, Cade Otton.
Somehow got goose egged last week, but had back-to-back really good games prior to that against San Francisco and Indy. It is a good matchup DVP-wise against Atlanta here. Could go back to the well with Cade Otton this week.
I don't mind going back to the well with Cade Otton. Not at all. I don't mind that one bit.
Anybody else? Tanner Hudson, Mayer.
There's nobody down there who like really lights it up for me.
Kyle Granson, 3 for 72 last week.
Yeah, well, why is Will Mallory getting all those targets?
I don't know. Where's Will Mallory at?
Exactly. Will Mallory had 4 targets last week to 3 for Granson.
$2,500 Will Mallory. 2 for 4 yards. He had 1 more target than Colin Granson. What was the snap counts? Let's check those out.
Pretty even, actually. I think they were both like somewhere between 30 and 34%.
Was that Granson's first game back from the injury?
I believe so.
No, he played week 12. What was the snap share in week 12? Could just be a matchup thing.
Kyle Granson, 34% of the snaps. Will Mallory, 18% of the snaps. That's right. Because Mo Alley Cox and Drew Ogletree both had 34 and 39% of the snaps, respectively.
A super multi-entry tournament throw, Kyle Granson.
You're going to get him in there no matter what.
Well, I've just talked myself into it. All right, let's go to defenses here.
Give me that Impemba special this week.
Zach Wilson back under center for your New York Jets. A reluctant Zach Wilson under center for your New York Jets. He didn't want to start, but they made him. So, not that the Texans defense has been anything great, but they are your top price guys. The Saints defense, though they've been struggling a bit here, number 2 against Carolina. Mm-hmm. I mean, where are we going at defense this week here, Howard?
Wherever your budget takes you.
Okay.
I mean, the Browns at 3,000.
Well, that's where I'm going, I think.
So, I mean, you're looking at the top. What I do is I start at the bottom for defenses, and I say, okay, Seahawks at 2,400. Let's scroll up and let's see what defense do I like the most out of these. Oh, look, here are the Browns. That's the first defense I really actually like.
Yeah, very surprised the recent numbers out of them. Denver and obviously the Rams putting up some good success against them there. But if we're looking at like a CJ Beathard start here, like they're in no Christian Kirk and, Browns at home, it all feels like it could add up to a decent Browns day here.
Mm-hmm. I like the Ravens defense against the Rams. Matthew Stafford's been turning the ball over a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go 49ers defense against Seattle too. I know that they've put up some points, but they do seem a little banged up right now. Again, I do like the Colts against the Bengals because I think Jake Browning takes a shit on himself.
Just saying. Good. I can see it happening. I like.
And the Colts have been one of the highest scoring defenses in fantasy over the last 5 weeks.
The sack numbers are ridiculous. They face some teams that aren't great, but like you said, Browning, certainly capable of turning that ball over. So
I'm gonna have a lot of GPP lineups that have the correlation, the Zach Moss Colts defense correlated.
Yeah, I like it. Let's build a lineup here, Howard. I plugged in our running backs, but if you want to change them up, that's fine.
Oh, I mean, I just built a lineup on my own. I wanted to just give you like your Denver stack.
Okay.
Because I wanted you to enjoy that.
Okay, well, give me what you got. Then I plugged in McCaffrey, McKinnon, but if we're not going that direction, we can.
Listen, we'll probably go that direction for the example lineups. But you know what? Let's have some fun with the GPP tournament here. Give yourself the Russell Wilson, Javonte Williams, Cortland Sutton stack.
We're going running back in this one too, huh? Jeez.
Yeah. Joe Lombardi's going to be like, let me show you guys how to use a pass catching running back. Not named Samaje Perine.
All right. Do we have Mike Evans in this?
No, you don't have Mike Evans in this.
All right. Well, what are we doing
Coming back on this stack, you do have Keenan Allen.
Okay, Keenan Allen. What's our RB2?
Oh, well, you got to pay down for Jerick McKinnon because everybody's going to pay down.
We did have McKinnon in there. Okay.
You got to get him in there, right?
All right.
You got to get good old Jerick.
Wide receiver 3, Howard.
Oh, I mean, why don't you put Stephon Diggs in there?
Oh, boy.
Very likely to be good correlation there with Jerick McKinnon and could have himself a big game. Now, you could pay down to Gabe Davis, right? And then maybe, bump something else somewhere. But for the time being, having Diggs, Allen, and Sutton as my 3 wide receivers, kind of, I feel some movement south of the equator here.
I'm wondering where we're going with 3 positions left and $3,300 per position. So,
well, you're using Isaiah Likely as your tight end.
Okay.
Right. And you're throwing the Browns defense in there.
Are we going like Mingo?
There you go. Go Mingo. Bingo, Mingo.
All right.
Just, just something to look at. I'm definitely not tied to this lineup, but based on the conversations that we've just had, I feel like we could do that. Let's, you know what? I'll tell you what, though, because we've got a couple of more minutes here, don't we?
Yep.
Let's build it your way, and let's see what we got. Start with McKinnon and McCaffrey.
Yeah. McKinnon, where is he? 48. Why am I bad at this? There he is. All right. Defense, I agree with the Browns.
Okay. You want to go all the way down to defense first, huh?
Well, I mean, why not, right? We're plugging in. Quarterback play, I'm with you on the Russell Wilson.
Let's just do something different here.
Well, he was on the cover of my quarterback coach.
Oh, okay. All right. So, we're going cover boys.
Well,
all right. Wait. Let's see what we can do here then. Let's, where is he? Russell Wilson. I like that. Isaiah Likely is the cover boy on the watch list. Why is Gerald Everett in your lineup there?
Get the comeback for Denver.
Get the comeback for Denver. You don't want to try coming back with something else? All right.
You can do both.
Sutton, Keenan. No, I don't want to double stack. I don't want to double stack here with Allen and Everett. But if you want Everett, get Everett in there. That's fine.
We can go Likely. You said he was a cover boy. 4,500. Do we go Drake London here?
Why? Because everybody else is?
Yeah, because he's value.
Let me see. Who's the cover of the wide receiver? Oh, Jamar Chase. Really?
How do we get Chase in the lineup?
Yeah, we don't get Chase in the lineup. So we can't do an all cover boy thing.
We would get Chase in the lineup if Josh Palmer was active. I guess we could plug Quentin Johnston for now. Gives us $6K for a flex.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Who's Coop's tight end cover boy?
Let's see.
You have Isaiah Likely as the cover of the watch list?
I do.
Well, I swear I thought that was like Zay Jones or something.
Sexy, isn't it? Oh, he's got Kyle Pitts.
What did I tell you? He's been talking Kyle Pitts up all week. Double tight end. I guess we get off Quentin Johnson then. What did you want to do for your how can I get Mike Evans? Let's do that. Let's go. Mike Evans. What does that give me? Does that give me nope. Doesn't give me Baker. Where's Baker? Baker.
Oh, I don't know about that.
53.
This lineup has gone
down $900.
Straight down.
I guess we don't need Sutton anymore.
This lineup is south of where I want it to be right now.
No, it's good. We're okay. We're just building. We're just building. We're having fun.
Hey, man, we're just having some fun here.
Just having some fun. All right.
Well, then if that's the case, then I'm going to build a lineup that does this then. I won't tell you what it is. I'll let you just keep going with yours and see what you got. But I'm going to stay with the McCaffrey-McKinnon kind of a situation. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there. Maybe I'll build this as like a cash lineup. How about that? I'll build it as a cash lineup, which means then that I can get Likely in there. And I can give you your Drake London in there.
Again, you're the one that's forced me to play Isaiah Likely this week. So,
I'm not. You just said he was the third highest owned tight end.
Yeah, it doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it the right play.
The Rams are giving up, like, they rank in the bottom 5 of DVOA against the tight end. They give up the second most fantasy points per game to the tight end.
Yeah. Not there.
You're not buying it.
Not there. Not for me.
You're not buying it. Fine, man. Be that way. What are our chances of Palmer getting into this week? Like, that's what I want to know.
Palmer? Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Why don't you know?
I wish I knew. I wish I had those answers for you.
I wish you did too.
We're so close to Justin Jefferson. What is Adams is 75.
I can get Evans into this lineup, or I can get Kelsey into this lineup. All right, here you go. You ready for this one? You're still building. Look at you.
I'm
You're
done.
still going.
Done.
Let me see yours. Dobbs, McCaffrey, McKinnon, Quentin Johnston / Joshua Palmer.
Joshua Palmer, yeah.
/ Joshua Palmer. I got you. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Isaiah Likely, Jonathan Mingo, and the Browns. I don't really know how I feel about that lineup, John.
Yeah, you hate having McCaffrey, Adams, and Jefferson in a lineup together? Yeah, it's fine.
I don't know. Try this one on for size. You ready?
Sure.
Justin Fields, Christian McCaffrey, and Jerick McKinnon.
Okay.
You got your DJ Moore, your Drake London, and your Mike Evans. You got Isaiah Likely. You got Josh Palmer and the Colts D.
Sounds good.
See?
I like it. If Josh Palmer's in, it opens up $1,000 extra. So
if Josh Palmer, like, that's what I think, that's kind of what we're all praying for right now, right? Like, let's hope for that. Like, let's send all the positive energy. I have a wish on Fantasy Alarm on the show on Sirius XM. Now the question is, should I use the wish on the return of Joshua Palmer? I feel like I need to use my wish on a positive career best performance by Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Because my friend does not want to go Green Bay Packers on the road on Monday Night Football.
That's fair. All right, everybody. This is a couple of example lineups you can all build. Howard will have the full playbook and dartboard out for you guys on Saturday. Example lineups out on Sunday. Myself and Britt Flynn, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. Howard and Coop, 10 to 11 over in Sirius XM. And myself, Coop, from 11 to 12, getting you all ready for week 14 action. Any final words here, Howard?
No. Playbook will be out on Saturday, and we'll have plenty of time to kind of work around with the finalized playbook and then the example lineups and all the other fun stuff that comes with it.
Amen to that.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of movement here between like now and where we're going to be like Saturday night. I feel like there's going to be a lot of movement here.
I agree with you 1,000%. There's going to be so much to do, so much to change here with all the news and weather still to come. But find it all in the playbook. Get your updates. Follow us on Twitter. Get us in the Discord. Good luck in week 14. We'll talk to y'all later.